Alright, welcome back to the landscape project. So in this tutorial we're going to cover how to add some details with rocks. So rocks in general, I feel like if you just start off drawing with contour line drawing is always good practice, and having good references. So you can see I moved the photo reference up above and allowing the form to be a continuous line like here that I'm doing right now with sort of the cage volume overlap of the contour. Again, contour line is more of the outside line. Cage volume does a wraparound, so it's like a modified contour, and basically just allowing your line to kind of change as you go. So I'm right now drawing this rock right here. If I change the color, maybe that would help. Change it over here. Whoop. This one right here. So basically, if I, whoop, and I want to default back to my original color, I'm going to hit the D key, switch back to black. So basically, once you have your sort of contour down or cage volume, then you can start to add, shadows and little nicks and crannies and all the little interesting aspects of rocks. So these are rocks at various stages, and I wanted to point out I created an arrow here to show the light direction. I was falling off the big rock here in the foreground, and I thought it'd be kind of good to just keep up with that momentum and choose that direction. So any of these rocks here, I can kind of go in and kind of feather, a little selection here, fill in the shadow, whatever kind of little bit I want to do. And then, most of the rocks have these little crevices and little details. If we zoom in on a rock, you can kind of see it. We zoom in on one of these, you can see it's lots of little pivots, dits, little divots, and just lots of little squiggly lines basically. So that's how you would keep going with the rocks essentially. So that's my little demo there. This comp does come from the larger image here again that I just brought down, so I'm using that as a reference. I'd like to share right now is some other aspects of drawing with ink, which is looking back in art history here. So we're going to check out DaVinci here first. We have a nice landscape ink drawing, and what I want you to know about this is that if you look at his lines qualities, they tend to go in a more diagonal direction. Almost all of them. There are some, horizontal lines to describe like the water here or the earth, and then a few vertical lines, but a lot of the lines that are shadow, you can see all these lines are going to go in a vertical direction here. If I switch back to my brush tool and just kind of, let me just add a new layer above all this, just so I can demo some stuff here. And I'll make it red here. Hang on. There we go. And I'll make it just a little bigger so we can see it. But as you can see, all these lines here are kind of going in this direction right around here. And, then he has some other kind of swirly marks, but they're all kind of going in a direction like this. There are, again, some horizontal lines going back here, but all that will kind of define form, which is really nice. So kind of wanted you to see that as the whole here. So let's switch to another image here. Let's turn off that one. And here is, actually I'll delete this red real quick. This is another example of DaVinci. We have here some nice flowers that he did. And if I zoom in here, let's see. He was known for doing all these kind of steadies, in drawing. But again, if we switch back to the brush tool here, you can see a lot of his lines are going this diagonal direction, to define the shading. So even though he has a nice contour line, or sometimes a cage volume line that just has a little bit of cage volume, it seems to wrap around a little bit. Here's another one that does more of that wrapping around to create that effect of cage volume. There's all the shading is sort of done in a direction. It's very consistent in terms of the diagonal. So you can work that way. That's not the only way to work. There are other ways to work here. But I just wanted to share that's one way you could work. Let me back up to here. And let me turn off this layer and show you Rembrandt here. So I'll kind of zoom out here so you can see Rembrandt, his landscape here. And his drawing, he has a lot of variety of marks, and he sort of built up, all kinds of nice darks in here. But if we go back to here and switch to my brush tool here again and increase the size a little bit, but you can see lots of variety of marks in terms of the direction. Like there's diagonal lines going this way, there's diagonal lines going this way. Once you get down in here, they're in all different directions. Now he is clear about defining the horizontals down here to differentiate the landscape, and then he has this nice deep shadow of shrubbery in here. So there's some compositional cues in here that are really great because most of this is filled in, right? And even his batch of trees here, you know, he's got a nice sort of contour silhouette, but then a lot of this is texturing, you know, to fill in the sure shadow. And then he just leaves a couple of areas where there are, you know, more described areas of the tree. And we'll get more into this in the next tutorial, but you can see here where there's some cool light aspects, and then you know, just being real consistent with the dark on here. So let me turn off that one and show one more example. This one, I'm going to go ahead and turn off this layer here. But you can see in here how there are, you know, again, nice diagonal lines, you know, going, especially in the landscape here down below. So there's some nice diagonal lines going this way, and then broken up with these little bits here. There's lots of variety of lines. That's the other thing I want you to notice is even though some of this is very, it feels very detailed, some of it's very simple. It's kind of a simplification of some shrubbery, the way he's making marks, and then he's filling in shadows. So it always has this effect of light, shadow, light, shadow, light, shadow. And the tree here has lots of visible detail. There's lots of cool little nicks and nannies. And then in the water line here, again, some nice strong horizontals. This does have a figure. I don't care if you have figures in your landscapes. We want to try and avoid man-made structures though. So if you want to eliminate that, that'd be cool. But yeah, you can see in the shrubbery here, a lot of it's just repeating these little marks over and over and over, and the trees and the shrubbery and that distance here. So anyways, that's sort of a quick overview of how to work with drawing rocks in a landscape. Again, I'll come back and show you my example here real quick. Not that one, but this one. Here we go. So these two layers. So we'll have more opportunity to come in and explore. I will show a little bit more of this later on. Once we get to the next tutorial, I'll have the rocks a little further along, and then I'll show you how to deal with trees. So until next time, see you soon. Cheers.